Hi guys! In case you haven't figured out the theme of season 4, because we've been dropping hints like crazy, it's gonna be Korean inspired. And it's all thanks to you because you've been requesting it for a while. But it's also because I really was inspired from our recent trip to Korea. Joe and I were there for about a month. And so of course I had to do some recipes based off of our experience. And I know that some of you are not that familiar with Korean ingredients, so I thought this would be a fun guide so that you won't feel so lost when the season starts. So I'm gonna start off with what I normally have in my house and also what I picked up from a recent grocery haul to a Korean market. As you can see, I have soy sauce and I also have soup soy sauce. Now this is important to know. This is called gukkanjang and it tastes different, it has a different body, and so if you're gonna just pour in regular soy sauce for soup, it's gonna have a different taste. What you're gonna look for is that when you go through the soy sauce aisle, just look at the actual sticker. It'll say soy sauce for soup or soup soy sauce. I have this huge lifetime supply tub of gochujang. This is Korean red pepper paste or red chili pepper paste. And this is supposedly supposed to be the new sriracha, so keep this on your radar. But this is just ground up chili peppers that are also mixed with a bunch of different ingredients. And so it's not only spicy, but it's also sweet and savory. So it kind of has this like unique taste. The one thing that you should be aware of is that there are levels of heat. So there's medium hot, there's very hot, and there's also mild. I usually tend to go for medium hot, which is what this one is. Okay, the next thing is soybean paste. This is again Korean fermented soybean paste. It's called doenjang. There's different kinds. There's ones that are very smooth, so it's like the soybeans that were fermented were ground up and turned more pasty and smooth, like a puree. And other ones, the chunks are left in there. Usually you throw this into a soup called doenjang jjigae, but I've been finding different ways to play with it and use it in marinades, which is also excellent, and that might be coming up soon. This last thing, you don't necessarily have to buy this. Actually, most people don't buy it, but I just like to cheat sometimes. This is called samjang. So what this is that if these two things had a baby and they combined together, mixed with maybe sesame oil and maybe a little more sugar, and it's what you use when you make lettuce wraps. And then you put this paste on it, and it's like this pungent, sweet, savory, earthy flavor. Next I have Gochugaru, or red pepper powder. So gochujang is made up of gochugaru. There's no other flavors mixed in with it, so it's just kind of like having cayenne pepper or crushed red pepper flakes on hand. If you see in a recipe saying pepper flakes or pepper powder, it's usually the same thing. It's just ground in a different coarseness. So a coarse one is kind of like the coarseness of sea salt, I would say. Like, it's very flaky. I usually use it when I need to sprinkle on something, just add a little bit. And then this is the powder, it's very fine. And I'll use this when I'm blending it into marinades or sauces. I know for a fact that I will be using this a lot. This is mirin, and this is the kind that I always use, but I tend to use this one too. It's the same thing. It's just a sweet rice seasoning, and it kind of tenderizes things, adds a little subtle sweetness, and it's very important to a lot of marinades and some sauces. So pick this up. It's good to have in your pantry. These are like happy opposites. This is your sour and this is your fat. I think that Koreans use sesame oil for almost everything. It's in a lot of the flavoring. And I know that it is strong in flavor, but that's the reason it's used. It has this like umami flavor to it, and it's just like toasty and nutty and roasted. And then this is brown rice vinegar, or just rice wine vinegar. This just happens to be made with brown rice, and I don't know, it's just something that I had on hand. But this would probably be the most common type of vinegar used in Korean cooking, that and probably apple cider vinegar. This is Korean curry powder. Usually I buy it in a brick form, and it's sold in like a block or a brick form, and you just break it off like a bouillon cube and you just make curry out of it. This I use for seasoning too. For one dish in particular that I am going to be doing, I know for sure this is an essential ingredient, so pick this up. There are different levels of heat, so this is medium, but you can choose mild or hot as well. This is what I would consider a specialty item, and this is Korean black bean paste. This is predominantly and probably only used to make one dish, which is jjajangmyeon, and that's a Korean Chinese fusion dish, and it's very popular in Korea. It's one of the first things we ate when we got there, especially with takeout delivery. I know that I will be making a recipe with this, so this is essential for that dish. If you don't have this, you can't make the dish. Whatever brand you choose, make sure it says roasted on it. That means you don't have to saute it in the pan beforehand. It's not just raw tasting, it's already pre-roasted. Okay, for these next items, if you're not used to Korean cooking, they will scare you. This is dried kelp, and it's different from just regular dried seaweed. So make sure it says kelp on it. I got the one that had English writing on it, and it's just thicker than seaweed, more cardboard-like, and it's very important. All you do is break off a piece of it or just take a chunk of it. Like this one's cut into smaller pieces, and you just throw it into water and boil it, and then when you're done, you can discard it, or you can even cut it up and eat it as part of the soup. And this kind of goes hand in hand with these next few items. This is anchovies, and if this kind of stuff makes you squeamish, then I don't know, you just have to get used to it. This is basically dried anchovies in its whole form. And I mean, Italians use anchovies too, but it's just marinated, it's in a jar, it's in a can. And you know, anchovies add a ton of flavor that you can't mimic with anything else. It's also a good way to make a savory soup without having to boil a large chunk of meat for a really long time. And then these are dried shiitake mushrooms, and you can buy them fresh, but for soups, usually you want to buy them dried. When you boil these together, magic happens. Speaking of soups, what I usually use for soups are either this is brisket, and I love that in a Korean market, it always is sold in a smaller, manageable chunk, usually by a pound or even a half pound. This is closer to a half pound right here, and this is exactly what I would need for just a small portion of soup. And the same concept goes for flank steak, and don't mind that it's frozen. I literally had this in my freezer already, but this is a smaller, manageable chunk of flank steak, about a pound. Usually you want to use either a flank or a brisket because it's all about shredding up that meat and seasoning it and adding it to your soup later. And you can't talk about Korean food without talking about bulgogi. And bulgogi is thinly sliced ribeye. And I love that in a Korean market, it already comes pre-sliced. So you don't have to worry about getting a huge chunk of meat, freezing it, and slicing it yourself. In that same section where you find your sliced meat, I also pull out, this is frozen pork butt, or also known as pork bulgogi. And usually it's marinated in a spicy red sauce based off of the gochujang, the pepper paste. And it's also good to have on hand, again, because it's pre-sliced, thinly, uniformly done. I tend to buy medium or firm tofu all the time. But here's sundubu, and this is like very soft tofu. This you use predominantly and probably mostly only for sundubu jjigae, which is just a soft tofu soup. What you do is you make a savory, often fiery soup, and then you just cut this open and squeeze this tube in, and that's all it is. Moving on to produce. Okay, you cannot cook Korean food without these two guys, ginger and garlic. Korean food uses a ton, and I mean a ton of garlic, and that's what makes it so good. It's pungent and it's necessary in most marinades, soups, sauces, you name it. So sometimes they even sell it peeled at the Korean grocery store already, especially if a recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of garlic or more. Do you know how much garlic that is to chop? Yeah, so sometimes I even cheat and I grab it. And then ginger too, it adds that warmth. It's mostly used when it comes to pork dishes, but it's also used in a lot of soups, sauces, marinades. Next, we got some onion family. At the Korean grocery store, scallions are always the cheapest. In season 4, I will be using a lot of scallions / green onions. And also in the green onion family, I have some Korean chives. These are just like regular chives, but they're a little thicker, and they're usually sold in a bundle like this. This will usually be used in dumpling mixtures like mandu. I might play around with a chive pancake, and if that's the case, it'll probably be this that I'm using. Also in the green family, I have some leaves. This is called 깻잎, or sesame leaves / sometimes called perilla leaves. It depends. I might interchange what I call it. But sometimes it's sold on a stem in a bunch, and other times it's sold in a bundle like this in a plastic bag or even in a shrink-wrapped styrofoam package, and they are used mostly for eating raw when you make some or lettuce wraps, but sometimes you can cook with it too. So this adds an aromatic, minty, herbal, basil type of flavor. I will be honest, it's kind of like cilantro to other people. Like when I talk to people that are not Korean, sometimes they like it and sometimes they don't. But I think most Koreans tend to like it. Maybe it's just because it reminds them of home. Usually you grew up with it growing in your backyard. So these are called enoki mushrooms. And I see it a lot used in Japanese cuisine, but when I was in Korea, I saw this thrown in almost anything. And usually they're used as garnish to top at the end of a bubbling cauldron of soup that's brought to your table, and it just kind of cooks in an instant. Next, we have wu. This is a Korean radish, and it's huge, but this is a small one. It's like the smallest one I could find because I don't really use a lot of it. This can sometimes be eaten pickled, like it'll be thinly sliced and pickled. When you simmer away into a stock, it makes the stock taste a little bit sweeter. So this goes hand in hand with the anchovies, the kelp, and the shiitake mushrooms. And then this is, like, you're like, Julie, what are you showing me? Just a potato, a sweet potato? This is called a gogoma. And this is a Korean sweet potato, which is different from an American sweet potato or the more commonly known sweet potatoes. And you'll know as soon as you peel it, it's white. And I think it tastes a little different too. I think the texture is different, it's a little firmer. This is good, especially in the winter time. We just throw it into the oven and roast it until it's nice and soft, and we peel it, eat it as a snack. It's delicious. But this gets thrown a lot into savory foods to add a subtle sweetness. So instead of just using regular potatoes inside of a meal, usually it'll be gogoma, and then it'll have like this kind of surprise sweetness to the potato. I'm gonna get all carby on you now. I'm gonna do rice cakes. You're like, why do you have so many rice cakes? I actually just keep these in my freezer, as you can tell, because this one's already open. So this is just made with rice flour, and it's just compacted and extruded and sliced in, or formed into different shapes. This rice cake is just simmered into a soup. It cooks up in an instant. It turns really soft. You don't want to overcook it. Just treat it kind of like pasta, right? You want it to be soft, but a little bit al dente, but not chewy or hard. So this is used, I don't know if you can see the picture on this guy. Usually tteokbokki is one of those famous dishes that you would see in Korea. It's usually street food, and it's covered in a red sauce based off of gochujang, the red pepper paste. This is the less common cut of duck. Actually, I didn't really give this kind of duck much attention until I went to Korea, and then I would see it. It was in a braised chicken dish, and it was so delicious. To me, it tasted almost extra chewy, so that's why I liked it. I think because it's so small and the shape is, and it's a little bit more compact. So I might use this in a dish or two. Lastly, I can't do a season of Korean-inspired recipes without talking about these two guys. This is your pickled element. This is danmuji, or sometimes called takgwang, depending. And this is pickled radish. I know it's like frighteningly neon yellow, but that's just the way it is. And it's hard to imitate making this at home, so you just have to buy it like this. Sometimes it's sold pre-sliced, and there's all different size packages, so you don't have to get this huge guy. But it is sweet, sour, and crunchy, and it's delightful. And of course, we have kimchi. We blow through kimchi really quickly, but there are different sizes. There's even tiny little jars if you're not too sure. The cool thing about kimchi is that it just gets better as it sits. You don't want to eat it right away when it tastes almost like raw salted cabbage. It's already fermented, but as it sits in your fridge, it gets a little bit more sour. And when it turns more tart, that's when you want to cook with it. You can fry it up, and you can saute it and throw it into fried rice. You can make soup or jjigae, which is stew, kimchi jjigae out of it. This is definitely the ultimate resourceful ingredient for Koreans. This is what makes Koreans Koreans. So I buy it pre-sliced because I'm lazy, but other times it's just sold as a big head of Napa cabbage in a jar that you pull out and you slice yourself. So if you don't want to do all that like me, because it gets all messy and stains your cutting board sometimes, then just buy it sliced like me. Well, that's it for now. I hope this guide and this grocery haul was fun and helpful. And I might have missed out a few things. I also may not use some of these ingredients in season 4 that I showed you, but it's just good to know. A lot of people have told me that when they walk into a Korean grocery store, they turn around and walk straight out because they're just scared and overwhelmed. But don't be. If you have any questions throughout the season, feel free to leave a comment. I'll be happy to answer them for you. And so anyways, I hope you enjoyed watching this. Stay tuned for season 4. Refer back to this video anytime you need help. So I hope you enjoyed this, and if you liked it, remember to push like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoy season 4. I'll see you next time. Bye!